I'm running this panel with no moderator and no other voice actors. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm sure we'll figure it out by the end of this. Yeah, thank you. I'm enough, I think is, yeah.
Yay!
So guys, you here because you like Fire Emblem?
Yeah!
God-Shattering Star was one of my favorite things I think I've ever done in my musical career. And you guys know how that came about, right? You guys know the story behind it? So me and Allegra Clark were doing a stream together for Fire Emblem. And we got to this part and she was like, hey, I came on here to embarrass you. I want to make you sing the Edelgard song, right? So I don't remember what the lyrics were or anything, but I hammed it up at the end. And I was like, Edelgard, or whatever. Like I gave this big operatic thing. And Jules heard it. And he was like, you gotta sing on God-Shattering Star. And I was like, are you sure? Because like, I'm not a trained opera singer at all. Like I don't have any singing training. And he was like, we will make it work. And weirdly enough, that is the third time in my life I've ever been hired to sing opera without having opera. I did it for a Qdoba commercial and a Staples commercial, both. And both was like, all it is me making fun of opera singers, right? Like, that's all I'm doing.
What inspired you to be such an active part of the community, like, you know, memeing along with everyone, making so many, like, covers of
I don't know, who doesn't like a good shitpost, right? Like, I don't know, it was fun. That's what, it was like, you know, all relationships are some kind of, like, value exchange, right? Like, so, I did something and people were like, this is cool, and then I was like, no, you're cool, and then it was like, you know, we just had fun with it. Nintendo's policy was basically like, hey, please don't put words in our characters' mouths, right? So like, I can stand here all day and be like, strategy in motion, but I can't, you know, like, give you political slogans as Claude, or like say other things. And there's a fine line because it's basically me anyway, but for the most part, yeah, don't put words in our characters' mouths, is there? Claude was always like water off a duck's back in Three Houses, right? Like nothing bothered him. Like murder was like not a big deal. But in Three Hopes, it was really cool to get to see him like feel the consequences of his actions, right? I remember getting really emotional. I'm getting emotional now, sorry. I was in the military, right? And so like we often do stuff that we're not always like on board with. And Claude had to make some really tough choices, and he paid for it. And that was just really cool to see. So I felt like the Three Hopes Claude was like really real to me, as opposed to, I mean, Three Houses Claude was real to me too, but in like a totally different way. I didn't expect that to happen, Jesus. Which house would I personally side with, like would Joe Zieja side with, and why? I mean, like, to be fair, I haven't played the Blue Lions route. I'll give you guys time to leave. But I understand the basics of it, in that, like, everyone's sad. I would say, like, adult me is very Golden Deer. Young me would probably be closer to Black Eagles. Yeah, just different phases of my life. My favorite line that I voiced as Claude was definitely like, I'm the grandson of the grandson of the grandson of the elite. That was so well written. It was a blast to read. Every time I hear it, it makes me giggle. Personal favorite ship for Claude is his ego. Is there a JRPG I've never voiced in that I really would like to? Ooh, I gotta dance around this one. I mean, I'd like to be a main cast Persona, like a Persona game. That'd be super cool. What did I learn in my military experience that helped me in my voice acting career? Show up on time. Man, actors are so like, they're creatives, right? So I got to bring a lot of military discipline and professionalism to a voice acting career, which I've been told many times by directors is like very helpful. I would say that's probably what's helped me out the most. My favorite supports from Three Houses, Claude and Lysithea were really fun because there was a lot of really good-natured ribbing at the beginning of it that turned into a lot of mutual respect. And I really enjoyed that arc. And then of course, like Hilda, they were always making fun of each other. Yes?
Okay, my friend might hate me for this, but there's a line that I'd like you to read, and it's one of Claude's lines.
Tell us.
Can you read it?
What is it?
It's this one here. Can you read it to my friend?
Are you guys ready for this one? Oh, I disagree. I'd let you grab my hand, my heart, even my neck. Everyone read that? Everyone read One student from each of the other houses. Favorite person to work with during Three Houses. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but like most of the time, actors work completely alone, right? We're like alone in a glass room, and there are people talking about us on the other side, and like I never worked with any other actor on Three Houses or Three Hopes. So like, I mean, my default answer is Patrick, because he's the only person I really worked with. I think that has to be the answer. I didn't work with anybody, really. How did I feel about voicing, like when I found out that we were going to get a new second game? I actually didn't find out until the first session. You know, like when you get all kinds of like project names that are code named, and they'll be, you know, like Platypus or whatever. Like they're just like Project Platypus, and you're like, okay. So I knew it was Claude. I thought it was DLC. I thought it was like a new, like, okay, let's do Garrett Mock Minecraft or something. Who knows? And I didn't find out until that session. They were like, oh, this is a new game. And I was like, oh. And they were like, it's an alternate universe. And I was like, oh. So really, it was actually quite a surprise. Same question. Actors need context. We cannot figure out what we are supposed to say or why if we don't know who we're talking to or the reasons for the conversation, right? So that old like Hollywood adage of like, well, what's my motivation here, right? It's true. I need to know why I'm saying this. And sometimes like, you can hear it. Like you'll have a game that they clearly didn't have the context, and you know someone said something very softly, right? And so the line becomes, "What did you say?" Because I didn't understand you, but it comes out, "What did you say?" Because no one told them it wasn't an insult, right? It was just, "Can you speak louder?" We need context. So I actually only ever played one Fire Emblem game before Three Houses, and that was Awakening, and it was long before I even like knew that I was. I mean, it was probably 2 years before I booked Claude. And it was cool. I hadn't played, like, I like strategy RPGs. Final Fantasy Tactics War of Lions is, like, God tier. And it was fun. It was a neat thing. I'd never seen, like, that support structure system before. So, it was fun. How do I handle the mobile game Heroes? How do I handle that, like, small blurbs? When I've done it in the past, typically you go in and it's, like, the shortest session of your life. Because it's like, I've been Claude for years. I know exactly what to do when I walk in the booth. And the last time I did it, the session lasted 8.5 minutes, and I went home. Because basically what they do is that, you know, it's like, here's your attitude change, right? So for Summer Claude, for example, right? It was like, take Claude and make him more cowabunga. Cool. That was it. You know, like, so it really is, it's like the smallest, tiniest chunk, and then like you go home. It's just another facet of the character. The question was, do I ever improv, and does it ever make it into the game, that kind of thing. So improv really depends on the project. A lot of times, Genshin, for example, right? I can talk about this. Genshin is very open to me changing up the lines for Wriothesley. His name is Wriothesley. Okay? I know it looks like Wriothesley. I know all that stuff. I'll take a tangent on Genshin here in a second. But like Genshin's very open to that. Fire Emblem wasn't necessarily, and I think it's because like the localizers were precious, and I don't say that in a derogatory way about their script. Like they had taken a lot of time to do that the way they wanted, and pretty much it was perfect anyway. So, but sometimes I'll improv something and it'll get into the game and it'll sound cool. Mostly for Fire Emblem, it was improvising some of the like the ways, like the ghosts thing, the lascivious ghosts line, that wasn't written with 14 O's. I saw it and I was like, oh, I wonder, can I go like, ghost? And I'm like, yes, it's in. And so that's as Joe, as myself, would I take Edelgard over Rhea? Any day of the week. I am not about the religious hierarchy. The actor strike was my view on the actor strike. Here's actually an interesting thing that most people don't understand. Like 99% of voice acting work is not affected by the strike at all. The contract that's struck is the TV and film, which encompasses almost no work that I do. And even within that, the TV contract allows for continuing of recording network television shows. What's my opinion? Pay your friggin' writers. Pay your I'll tell you what, who here is a VeggieTales fan? It's right? Okay, so I'm Bob the Tomato in the VeggieTales podcast. We're in the middle of season 2 right now. Those shows are they make me crazy because not only am I Bob, I'm Mr. Lunt, I'm Mr. Nezer, I'm 7 or 8 characters, and we'll go through them all in one session. It can can be extremely challenging, and I'm always having to play reference sometime of myself in my ear to make sure I go back to where it is. So it can be challenging. But if you wanted a real answer of the character that I hate the most in Fire Emblem Three Houses, it's Gatekeeper. What? Listen to this, okay, people? That dude's name is Gatekeeper. He blew it 3 times. If you had a friend named Milk Getter, and he came back from the store every time with grapes, you'd fire him. End of rant. Did you just call me old? I'm just kidding. Oh my God, I think this would be like a therapy session. The question was, even though a lot of people know me as Claude, do I ever want to separate myself from that identity? I mean, absolutely, right? Like, you want people to always separate you from a role. But there's something to be said for like engaging with the community that knows you for that, right? It's like if you walked into a Honda dealership, right? And they tried to sell you a microwave. You'd be like, what the hell? So there's a little bit of that, like you have to be very careful about expanding your brand and like how you do it. Like you can't just say like, screw Fire Emblem. No, I'm super thankful and happy for all you guys. You made my life awesome. Like it's so great to interact with you on a level of Fire Emblem. And you've probably noticed that like I kind of eventually move this way and I start doing different things. I start online voice acting academy. I start doing impressions of different characters. I start talking a little bit more about Genshin now that that's going to come out. And like you just, I try to follow a good mix of like what I'm passionate about at that point. And like what you guys resonate with. So, I mean, like, how mad can I be? I made a Fire Emblem saxophone album. Like it's so it's a mixed answer. Like, never am I bitter about it. No. But it's like, you want to introduce different facets of yourself to people, and that's more about what it is. Like, I want you guys to know me, not necessarily Claude. And that's just a struggle that every actor goes through, whether it's Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and like knowing him as something else, or Hugh Jackman as Wolverine or whatever. So. The most difficult and the most rewarding part of my career. I'm looking at the most rewarding part of my career. I'll be totally honest. The most difficult was actually probably my transition to Los Angeles. I didn't start in LA. I started as like a kind of like corporate commercial guy in Virginia from my home studio after I kind of like got out of working for the government. And man, I went off like a rocket. Like I was booking everything, and I was just like riding this high, and I got to LA and I was like, I'm the next Troy Baker, and LA was like, screw you. Right? And I had to be really patient. It may not like seem that way, but like there's a lot of patience in developing slow relationships and realizing that like it didn't matter where I'd come from, I was starting again in a lot of ways. So that was probably the most challenging, is being patient. And like, you walk into an agent's office and you're like, hey, I book like crazy, and then they're like, prove it, and then they don't give you the chance. It's a complicated industry. Oh, okay. What's the most interesting voice I've done? Oh man. You don't get like a lot of opportunity in today's like entertainment media industry to really go off the rails. I really went off the rails with Cells at Work. I played a piece of bacteria that gave people boobs. That's what it is. And Christian Lamonti was directing, and I went with this like crazy like Ed Wynn high-pitched dude who was like, oh, the sorts of things I'm going to give you. Like, that's the voice I got to do. And it was one of the most fun sessions. And you don't really get to like that wouldn't work for Claude. Like if I submitted this at audition, they would have been like, okay. We must have gone over this line like eight or 9 times. There's a point at which Claude is pretending to surrender or pretending to fall back, right? And there's a line where he's like, oh no, I guess we'll have to go back to our, we'll have to retreat from enemy lines. And I kept giving it that read where it was like, oh boy, I'm in trouble now. And Patrick is like, stop. You have to, this is supposed to be a secret. People don't know this. And I'm like, come on, it's Claude. And so but yeah, that was probably one of the lines that we tripped up most. I always disappoint people when they ask this question, which is, how do you warm up your voice and what are your vocal exercises? And I just laugh. I don't have any. Literally, the only thing I've ever done to like condition my voice is a technique called straw phonation, which is where you put like a coffee straw sized thing in your mouth and you'll like hum up and down. It gets the chords to expand and relax. I will only do that after like a rough day. For the most part, I do absolutely nothing. Disappointingly, there are many actors who have like routines. I don't. It would be cool. So right now, actually, I'm supporting a GoFundMe for one of my dear family friends. It's on my front page of my Twitter. And if we get past a certain part, I'm cosplaying as male Edelgard. Who I'm calling Edelgary. So yeah, I have plans to cosplay other things in the future. My favorite moment in the Fire Emblem game that did not involve Claude. Help me out here, guys. Are there moments that don't involve Claude in this game? I don't think so. Is there parts of the game that don't have Claude in it? Have I ever refused to say a line? Yes. Not that it was racist or anything like that. A casting director kind of made a mistake and hired me for a job, and they were like, "Okay, you got 3 characters. There's this character. Now you got this character. Now you're a black gang member." And I was like, "No, I am not." But it was, we were very professional about it, and it was more like they were like, "Oh, totally understand, got that." So that's probably the only time I've ever like refused to say a line. More like refused to play a character when it was sprung on me. You gonna get back at her?
I wish I could, but I won't. Actually, I'm going to ask a very Quebecer question, but is it your first time in Montreal? And if no, anyway, have you tried the poutine from here?
So I tried poutine at the bar last night at the hotel.
Yes!
I was sitting with Griffin and Keith and my fiance, and I was the only person that tried it. Everyone else was like, "I'm not doing that."
What?
Which is silly, because Griffin has it's anyway. They were all basically like, "We're good, thanks." Like they had it before, and I don't know.
Okay.
But yes, I've tried poutine. It's very good. It's like someone destroyed a corned beef sandwich on top of fries, and like they were just like, "Well, we can't clean this up. We might as well eat it." Are there any funny moments in the booth that were hard to keep professional? One of my favorite jobs I've ever done. Cartoon called Lego City Adventures, which is on like right before SpongeBob. I played Duke the Tane, who was like this idiot city cop. But it was an ensemble recording, which meant it was a very rare occurrence where it was me and like 12 other actors in the room. And I remember like walking into that room and I saw like Fred Tatasciore, the voice of Hulk, and like Roger Craig Smith, like Assassin's Creed, and Sonic, and Captain America, and then like the voice of Johnny Bravo was sitting there, and Dexter from Dexter's Lab, and I was like, "Did you hire the right guy?" We laughed our asses off. We had such a good time in those sessions, and often the director would be like, guys, we got a schedule, because we're all clowning around. That's why you don't put actors in a room together. In the world. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
When is Steven cosplaying Claude?
I don't know.
Soon? And we're gonna cosplay. Wait, I have to move my bag. I want to cosplay Edelgard, and she's gonna do
Hilda.
yes someday next year.
Yeah, at least the student version.
So we just gotta make them and buy the fabric, right?
Gotta do the work.